So basically this is the opening of the book. So I'll read a bit from the opening of the book and then maybe move towards more of the middle of the book. So this is episode 1, and it's titled Nabokov, Metamorphoses and Onions and Water Lilies. Onions and water lilies, again, I go back to this agricultural reference because trees plow to the ground in their roots to look for water. But we have other kinds of trees that is opposite to, for example, what we know of like olive trees and fig trees, etc. We have other kinds of trees such as, or plants, such as onions and water lilies, where the roots do not shoot downwards, they shoot upwards, and therefore they're not rooted inside but outside. And that's what I'm trying to convey in this book, that identity is not necessarily always in the past, but it has kind of this perspective in the future. Once upon a time, I woke up like Franz Kafka's claustrophobic and insomniac Gregor Samsa to find myself a Palestinian exile. Human by nature, German by nationality, Jordanian by birth, Palestinian by descent, and writing in English, I have problems answering to the question, where are you from? Such question boxes one within a boundary and asks you to name geographies and places on the geopolitical map of the world, whereby it inhales you to be associated with the whereabouts of an accident called birth, or an absent presence that is called history. On the other hand, having to state singular places therefore surely glorifies the triumphalism of geography and cultural borderlines. On the other, it marginalizes the celebration of multiple cultural experiences. No singular or brief answer will ever suffice to answer such question. It is rather the transitory metamorphoses, the changes throughout various and diverse cultural experiences that count. And I try to reflect upon this idea throughout the book. I also mention briefly certain pieces of literature, as I mentioned, whereby they taught me a lot about myself as well. In this case, for example, I talk about Alice in Wonderland. In exile, you always have the distance to blame when things go wrong. When you choose to take part in society, you do not have distance to blame. You only have yourself to. And you are forever torn between imprisonment at home and freedom in exile. It was not clear where this was going when I started writing it. Yet consolation and reassurance were drawn from the echoing of the cat's reply to Alice in Wonderland. If you do not know where you are going, any road can take you there. Once you read Alice's adventures, all your nightmares become of those falling rapidly through the rabbit hole. Life turns into a cactus race where there are no rules, and everybody is running haphazardly in circles with no particular direction, and so everybody wins. I wrote this piece in episode 5, probably 11 or 10 years after I had been in England and I returned for the first time to Ramallah, and I had been denied entry twice before. And so I see the bank, we call it the bank, the West Bank, the bank, Al-Duffa. Inside the bank of waters, you have gills. Outside the West Bank, you manage to breathe through lungs. You are an amphibian. Every exile is. Sometimes you cannot breathe at all. The double negativeness cannot be transformed into positiveness, and the amphibian in you is no longer able to develop any form of breathing, of metamorphosis, of survival, of adaptation. In other words, there is no evolution most of the time. There is a mere fixed, restricted revolution. The sense of fragmentation and dispossession prevents any shape or form of reproduction of any kind of familiarity, and you feel mutated, there is no vocalization whatsoever. For there is no air. You are breathless, and the production of any air through vocal cords into the air sac is not possible, because you're always grabbed by the throat. Furthermore, you're always afraid of getting out of the water, because you are surrounded